What if I told you that Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and every billionaire you admire lives in constant terror of something so primal, so devastating, that they spend billions trying to escape it? This isn't about market crashes or business failures. This is about a fear so fundamental that it drives every decision they make, every empire they build, every relationship they destroy. Niccolò Machiavelli once wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." But what happens when the most powerful people on earth are the ones consumed by fear? Tonight, we're exposing the psychological prison that holds every billionaire captive. The fear that makes them more human than they'll ever admit. The terror that no amount of money can cure. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and comment your favorite topic below. Your engagement keeps this channel alive and these uncomfortable truths coming. Every morning, when Jeff Bezos looks in the mirror, he sees what terrifies him most. Not a business rival, not a market crash, but the slow, inevitable march of time across his face. This is the fear that no fortune can buy away: mortality. Machiavelli understood this fundamental human weakness when he wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." But what happens when you can buy everything the eye desires, yet cannot touch the one thing that truly matters, time itself? The ultra-wealthy live with a psychological burden most people never experience. While the average person accepts mortality as an abstract future concern, billionaires are acutely aware of their finite existence precisely because they have unlimited resources to contemplate it. They have the means to measure everything, optimize everything, control everything, except the biological clock that counts down their remaining days. This creates a paradox of power. The more control they achieve over their external world, the more helpless they feel against their internal biology. Larry Ellison, Oracle's founder, has openly stated his intention to spend his fortune on defeating death. Not improving life, not enhancing experiences, defeating death itself. This isn't ambition, it's desperation dressed in innovation. Consider the psychology behind this obsession. When you can purchase nations, influence elections, and reshape entire industries, the one frontier you cannot conquer becomes an unbearable reminder of your ultimate powerlessness. Death becomes not just an ending, but a defeat, the final proof that all their accumulated power means nothing. Silicon Valley has become the epicenter of humanity's most expensive midlife crisis. Every tech billionaire funnels millions into life extension research, cryonics, and anti-aging technologies. But this isn't scientific progress. It's psychological warfare against their own mortality. Peter Thiel, the PayPal co-founder, has invested heavily in parabiosis research, literally transfusing young blood into aging bodies. The symbolism is almost too perfect. The wealthy, quite literally, want to consume youth to preserve themselves. This modern vampirism reveals the depths of their terror. Machiavelli warned us, "The lion cannot defend himself against traps, and the fox cannot defend himself against wolves." The billionaires have mastered being both lion and fox in business. Yet they remain defenseless against the biological trap that awaits every human being. Google's Larry Page founded Calico, a company dedicated solely to extending human lifespan. Amazon's Bezos funds multiple anti-aging ventures. These aren't charitable endeavors. They're desperate attempts to purchase what cannot be bought. The irony is staggering. The same people who built fortunes by accepting that everything has a price cannot accept that their own lives are priceless, precisely because they're finite. The psychological toll of this pursuit is evident in their behavior. They become obsessed with optimization, measuring every biomarker, tracking every health metric, turning their bodies into corporate projects to be managed and improved. But beneath this scientific facade lies pure, primal fear. Their wealth allows them to see mortality not as a natural conclusion, but as a problem to be solved. This perspective transforms death from an accepted reality into a personal failure. When you've spent your life believing money can fix anything, the ultimate unfixable problem becomes unbearable. Unable to buy actual immortality, billionaires pursue the next best thing, eternal legacy. But this pursuit reveals another layer of their mortality terror, the fear that they will be forgotten, that their existence will become meaningless. Warren Buffett, despite his folksy image, has structured his giving to ensure his name echoes through eternity. The Giving Pledge isn't just philanthropy, it's a desperate bid for remembrance. Bill Gates has transformed from a ruthless monopolist to a global health crusader, not through moral awakening, but through the realization that philanthropy offers a path to immortality that software never could. Machiavelli observed, "There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things." The billionaires are attempting to introduce a new order where their memory becomes eternal, where their names become synonymous with human progress. Elon Musk's Mars obsession isn't about planetary exploration. It's about becoming the man who made humanity multiplanetary. His legacy won't just survive on Earth, it will travel to other worlds. This is mortality terror channeled into cosmic ambition. The tragedy is that their fear of being forgotten drives them to behaviors that ensure they'll be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Their desperate grasping for immortality reveals their fundamental humanity. They're just as terrified of death as the rest of us, only with the resources to make their terror everyone else's problem. In their quest to transcend human limitations, they've become the most human of all, consumed by fear, driven by terror, and ultimately powerless against the one enemy their money cannot defeat: time itself. Wealth doesn't just buy you things, it builds an invisible prison around your soul. Every billionaire lives in a golden cage of their own making, surrounded by people who need something from them, isolated from genuine human connection by the very fortune that was supposed to bring them freedom. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." For billionaires, this becomes a psychological torture chamber. They exist in a world where every smile might be calculated, every friendship might be transactional, every relationship might be a performance designed to extract value from their wealth. Mark Zuckerberg, despite connecting billions of people through Facebook, remains fundamentally disconnected from authentic human experience. His robotic public appearances aren't just awkward social skills, they're the psychological armor of someone who can never be certain if people like him or his bank account. The irony is devastating. The man who built the world's largest social network lives in profound social isolation. This isolation isn't accidental, it's structural. When you can buy anything, relationships become another commodity. When you can solve most problems with money, human connection loses its necessity. The billionaire's tragedy is that they create the very conditions that make genuine relationships impossible. Consider the psychology of never knowing if you're loved for who you are or what you own. This uncertainty becomes a constant psychological burden, creating paranoia and emotional withdrawal. They build walls not just around their estates, but around their hearts, protecting themselves from exploitation, while simultaneously guaranteeing their loneliness. The wealthy often retreat into increasingly exclusive circles, surrounding themselves with other wealthy people who understand their unique problems. But this creates an echo chamber of privilege, further disconnecting them from the human experience that the majority of humanity shares. Power corrupts not just morally but psychologically. It teaches you that everyone wants something from you, that every relationship is potentially extractive, that trust is a luxury you cannot afford. This creates a spiral of isolation that no amount of money can break. Bezos, his divorce proceedings revealed this perfectly. The man who built an empire on customer trust couldn't trust his own wife with their shared fortune. The prenuptial negotiations, the careful asset protection, the strategic maneuvering, all necessary business practices that poison the well of intimate connection. Machiavelli observed, "He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation." Billionaires, in their obsession with protecting their wealth, neglect the very relationships that make life worth living. They preserve their fortunes while destroying their souls. The psychological impact manifests in their behavior patterns. They become hyper-analytical about human interactions, constantly calculating motives, measuring the cost-benefit analysis of every relationship. This analytical approach to human connection is antithetical to the vulnerability and spontaneity that genuine relationships require. They hire teams of advisors to manage their personal relationships, family offices that coordinate with spouses, relationship managers who handle friendships, social secretaries who organize their human connections like business meetings. But you cannot outsource authentic intimacy. You cannot delegate genuine love. The tragic irony is that their success in business often comes from their ability to read people, to understand motivations, to predict behaviors. These skills, essential for building empires, become psychological prisons when applied to personal relationships. They become so good at seeing through people that they lose the ability to simply be with them. The result is a life surrounded by an army of employees, advisors, and dependents, yet fundamentally alone. They exist in a crowd of people who need them but cannot truly know them. Perhaps most disturbing is how extreme wealth systematically erodes empathy. When your problems can be solved with money, you lose the ability to understand problems that cannot be purchased away. This creates a psychological chasm between billionaires and the rest of humanity. Studies have shown that wealth literally changes brain chemistry, reducing the capacity for empathy and increasing narcissistic tendencies. The more money someone accumulates, the less capable they become of understanding genuine human suffering. This isn't moral failure. It's neurological adaptation to a reality where human problems become abstract concepts rather than lived experiences. Machiavelli warned, "A prince ought to have two fears, one from within, on account of his subjects, the other from without, on account of external powers." Modern billionaires fear their own subjects, the ordinary people whose lives they increasingly cannot comprehend or relate to. This empathy erosion creates a feedback loop of isolation. As they lose the ability to understand others' experiences, they become less capable of forming meaningful connections. Their responses to human suffering become calculated and strategic rather than genuine and emotional. Their philanthropy becomes PR rather than compassion. The psychological cost is enormous. Without empathy, they lose access to the full range of human experience. They become emotional tourists in their own lives, observing human connection from the outside, but never truly participating. Their wealth becomes both shield and sword, protecting them from human vulnerability while cutting them off from human joy. The ultimate fear isn't just death or isolation. It's the gradual erosion of their own humanity. They become so skilled at manipulating human nature that they lose touch with their own. In gaining the whole world, they lose their souls, and worse, they lose the capacity to recognize what they've lost. They end up as psychological prisoners of their own success, surrounded by luxury, but starved of the very thing that makes life worth living: genuine human connection. Their billions cannot buy back the empathy they've lost, the relationships they've commodified, or the humanity they've sacrificed on the altar of accumulation. So here we are, staring into the psychological abyss of the ultra-wealthy, and what do we find? Not the confident masters of the universe we're sold in media, but frightened human beings trapped in golden cages of their own construction. Machiavelli's final wisdom echoes through the centuries. Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. The billionaires chose fear, both to inspire it and to live within it. They chose the safety of being feared over the vulnerability of being loved. And now they exist in a world where genuine love becomes impossible to recognize or receive. Their fear of mortality drives them to desperate attempts at immortality. Their fear of genuine connection drives them to systematic isolation. Their fear of vulnerability drives them to emotional numbness. They have everything money can buy, and nothing that makes life worth living. This isn't a story about the wealthy. It's a mirror reflecting our own relationship with power, control, and connection. The same psychological mechanisms that trap billionaires in their golden prisons operate in all of us, just at different scales. Their extreme wealth simply amplifies universal human fears and exposes the psychological cost of choosing security over vulnerability, control over connection, accumulation over authentic experience. The most chilling realization isn't that billionaires are different from us. It's that they are exactly like us, just with the resources to pursue their fears to their logical, destructive conclusions. They show us what happens when human nature gets everything it thinks it wants. In the end, the fear billionaires don't want you to know about isn't really their secret. It's ours. It's the recognition that all our striving for security, all our accumulation of resources, all our attempts to control our environment are just elaborate defenses against the fundamental uncertainties of human existence. The only difference is that most of us can't afford to pursue these defenses to their ultimate soul-destroying conclusion. The next time you envy their wealth, remember the price they've paid, not in money, but in humanity itself. The next time you feel inadequate comparing your life to theirs, remember that you possess something they've lost forever, the ability to form genuine connections, to experience authentic emotions, to live without the constant calculation of cost and benefit. What fears are driving your own life? What connections are you sacrificing for security? What part of your humanity are you trading for control? These are the questions that matter, because unlike billionaires, most of us still have time to choose differently. If this exploration into the psychological prison of extreme wealth resonated with you, subscribe to keep these uncomfortable conversations alive. Comment below with your favorite topic. What aspect of human psychology do you want us to examine next? Your engagement doesn't just support the channel. It proves that genuine connection and authentic curiosity still exist in a world increasingly dominated by algorithmic isolation. Remember, the most radical act in a world of commodified relationships might simply be choosing genuine connection over calculated advantage. You still have that choice. Use it while you can.